Yo, what's going on, everybody? Good morning. Welcome back. Hope you had a great 4th of July. Welcome to the Stochastic.com MLB Strategy Show. A little 11 game action here on the YouTubes today. Or if you're listening in podcast form, like I've said many times, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you do with those Samsung phones, we got you covered front to back, top to bottom, anything uploaded in podcast form, from the strategy show to Josh's contenders videos. So if you find that easier, maybe you don't have YouTube Premium, you want to close your phone, put it in your pocket, podcast, YouTube, whatever it is, happy you guys are with us. Talking 11 games of baseball on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm Dave Loughran at Loughy_D, joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. What's good, brother?
Back home. So I guess I was home yesterday, but back home for good now. So that's nice. But I don't know. I feel awake for this show because I had to wake up and drive back as opposed to just getting out of bed.
Good, man. That's good to hear.
Yeah, probably means I need a nap in an hour. But
did you have like any barbecue? You barbecue or anything? You do anything fun? It was your mom's birthday as well, right?
Yeah, it was my mom's birthday, so I went there. We just got steak from somewhere and ate at home.
Some bougie shit, huh?
Yeah, the local Longhorn Steakhouse.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Nice. Actually, I was gonna say maybe it's not super bougie to like order steak and bring it home.
Yeah, I mean, well, because we were gonna go, but I was making lineups, and then we wanted to make sure we were back before the fireworks because of the dogs. So it was like, all right, we're gonna be cutting it close. I'll just pick it up.
Oh, dude, I know. I'll tell you what though. Went over to my wife's parents, to her mom and stepdad's place. Great people. We have a great time there. You know, my brother-in-law, sister-in-laws are there and everything. And they grill up some burgers and dogs. So I grab a burger, just a fat burger. And there were some deviled eggs. I took 2 deviled eggs and just tossed them straight on top of the burger, mushed them in, crushed that in a couple minutes, ate a hot dog, had already had some drinks. I get home by 6 o'clock. You know that feeling where you eat so much after you've drank? And I didn't even drink that much. I probably had like in total three light beers and a mixed drink. You know that feeling though? Like you're just dead to the world. All you want to do is go to sleep before the sun goes down.
Yeah, 100%.
But I couldn't because of the fireworks, and my dog hates fireworks.
Yeah. But I was actually surprised. Like my mom's dogs, they clearly didn't like them, but they didn't bother them as much as they usually do, or as much as I expected. I don't know if it's because assholes in our neighborhood have been shooting them off for 3 or 4 nights in a row now, so they're just used to it. But it went better than I expected.
Nice. Yeah, with my dog, it's funny because you look at her like, oh, she's a 75 or so pound pit mix, like always happy to let people know that she can be aggressive, even though she's not, like she's a big pussy, But then when it comes to the fireworks, she just can't handle it. So she just like jumps up on the bed and sits up next to me. So there's no way I'm falling asleep. So I listened to a 3-hour podcast of a hacker who catches pedophiles in the deep web.
Nice. Yeah, somebody said Chris Williams said his dog was born 99% deaf, so fireworks don't bother them. That's my other theory for why my mom's dogs were okay yesterday. She has 2. She has a husky and a pit mix. And the pit mix is, I think, too dumb to think for itself. So he just reacts to what the husky is doing. And the husky is a couple years older and I think losing her hearing. So the husky wasn't acting as scared, probably just because she couldn't hear the fireworks. And then the dumb dog was just like, oh, there's nothing to be scared of.
Well, that's good, because my dog with thunderstorms, and we've had a lot of them lately, fireworks.
Yeah, they don't like thunderstorms.
You get heavy thunder around the dog, they're in bed. I wrap a blanket around her. Sometimes it helps, but glad that's over with. The older I get, the more I despise fireworks. Like I used to think they were cool. Now I've just grown tired of them. And I think every year I get older, every day I get older, all of the things that were fun. I'm basically just a curmudgeon now that doesn't like anything.
Right. Well, there's that, but then there's also like fireworks used to be like you would see them on the 4th of July. Now you see them at everything you go to all year long.
Yeah. I'm not the person that like in our neighborhood, there's like a neighborhood Facebook group that's like, please, there's an ordinance. I'd never do that. I don't care how old I am. Like, you know what I mean?
Show up with the AR and like, hey, stop.
I'm saying I still have some level of self-respect,
Right.
But certain things just bother me these days. Like our boy Eric Lindquist, in one of our chats the other day, called Aton King. He's like, go on, King. And I stop doing that, dude. Like,
it's weird when Eric does it because he's older than both of us, or at least me. I think
he's around my age. He's like, you're not 12, bro.
Right.
Stop. I love Eric. And I don't know why I have such a visceral reaction to people doing like the, go on King and stuff like that. If you said that to me about anything,
I would never say it.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, can you envision that coming out of you being like,
no, not at all.
Yes, King.
Nope.
No. Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Again, I do hope you had a wonderful 4th of July celebrating our independence. Josh asked me a great question. He was 4 beers deep by the time a 12 noon live before lock started yesterday, Adam.
Yeah, on a separate note about our coworkers and their habits, somebody's got to get Josh under control.
And he goes, do you think if the revolution never happened and we never gained our independence, do you think life would be any different at all? And I say, all right, dude, I'm just starting the show. Well, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Let's get north of 50 out of the gate. I know we got 125 watching, they'll build, but there's got to be 20 more of you right now that are just like, hey, I'm feeling good this morning. And I feel like doing something nice, I feel like hitting that thumbs up and getting us to that 50 mark. It's doable. And if you're watching or listening after the fact, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the pod, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a review or rating on iTunes. That stuff goes a long way for us. And we for sure appreciate you. So ready to get into this?
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I don't remember if it was the 1 o'clock lock or the 6 o'clock lock when Josh messaged me yesterday that he was hammered and having difficulty making lineups. I think it was 6, but it really could have been 1.
It was 6 because he told me he right after the show ended, he's like, I might have a tough time getting lineups in for tonight's slate. The funny thing is though, like when he does that, he's perfectly fine in the sense that like the analysis is as sharp as ever, but he's just more willing to say things that he might not have said had he not.
And there's already with him, the line isn't that high.
That's the problem. The line just dissolves.
Right.
It just dissolves. Yeah, he's like, I think Joey Chestnut should just start identifying as a woman so he can win both contests now.
Did he say that?
Yeah. No, I'm telling you, man. And I'm on a live before lock, right? I'm on a live before lock where on a strategy show, you and I can bullshit a little bit, right? Like there's nothing really backed up against it. There's no slate starting in an hour. He just keeps wanting to talk. And I'm always happy to indulge, but not with this stuff. Like he just... that was only one of many examples of what he was getting into. So yeah, good stuff. Anyway, almost at 50. Did you hit that thumbs up for me, Adam and Mike? Get us to 50. Both of you guys hit that. We hit 50 out of the gate and we're in business. There we go. There we go. All right. Let's talk some baseball. Baltimore, New York Yankees, Baltimore minus, there we go, 50. Minus 120. On the road, Yankee Stadium, 9.5 run total. Yo, by the way, listen to some of these totals today. 9.5, 9.5, 10, 10 are the first 4 games we're going to talk about. So, yeah.
Could be some offense.
Some big totals. Dean Kramer, Randy Vasquez on the mound, which, by the way, speaking to a later game, I actually didn't know Tommy Milone was still pitching. Like, I saw that name and I went, what in the heck?
Just found out.
Yeah, he's starting. And apparently he made a starter an appearance in April too, and I just happened to miss that one. But
yeah, former O's great.
Kramer and Vasquez. Do you have any specific interest in a 9.5 total game, pitcher friendly park, more so to lefties? Or sorry, hitter friendly park, more so to lefties. But let's get into pitching here, and then we can start talking some bats.
Yeah, nothing that really stands out. 7,700 for Kramer. He's an average-ish pitcher. Not a bad matchup with the Yankees, but like you said, this park does play up power, and this is a big enough slate where you're just not going to have that much trouble finding good enough pitching. So Kramer projected for 3% ownership. Nothing that stands out there. 8% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Vasquez projected for 3% ownership with a 6% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. They're both cheap enough where if you're playing 150 lineups, maybe you get a little bit, but certainly not guys I'm looking to target.
All right, so then let's talk about bats. Pulling up the top stack tool here over at stochastic.com. You guys already know 50% off all of our tools. Whether you want to do a week or a month, it doesn't matter. One sport, or you're like, hey, I want golf too, and I want MMA, and I want NASCAR. And even if I don't know these sports particularly well, even if I'm not fluent in NASCAR, MMA, or tennis right now with Wimbledon happening, like all this stuff, doesn't matter. That's why we have the tools at your disposal. So check it out, 50% off everything. Link in the description and in chat. Top stack tool right now, if you're sorting by top stack probability, we've got the Yankees at, we only got them at what, 3% right now. We have Baltimore though at 6%, slight positive leverage around 2%, only pulling 3.6% aggregate ownership here. Decent stack score at 5.2. Any specific interest on either side of these, maybe stacks or individual bats, stand out to you?
I think either stack is fine. It's like 85 degrees in New York. It plays up power to both sides of the plate, like you said, particularly the left side. So you do have a lot of left-handed power for the Orioles. Not much time in the major leagues for Randy Vasquez, so don't have any real splits data. Does have a 70 grade curveball on FanGraphs, which that is a pitch that could potentially offset left-handed hitters a bit. At AAA this year, 13 starts, 61 and 2/3 innings pitched, 24% strikeout percentage, did have a 5.08 FIP. 4.95 xFIP. Doesn't project to be anything great in the majors. The bat projects him for an 18% strikeout percentage. Zips is at 19.5%, 4.7 FIP from Zips, 4.8 from the bat. So, and also a 4.6 implied run total for the O's. So I do think they're interesting. They're 5th in stack score in the top stacks tool. 6% chance of being the top stack, 4% chance of being the top value stack. The guys at the top are relatively expensive with Henderson, Rutschman, Santander. Mullins probably hitting 5th is expensive, but everybody else is pretty cheap. O'Hearn is cheap and gives you power. He did lose outfield eligibility. Hicks is cheap. The big one, though, Colton Cowser called up. He is 2K flat because, once again, DraftKings refuses to price anyone who has played in the minor leagues up to this point above minimum salary. This is one of the best prospects in baseball. Good hitter. 2K flat in Yankee Stadium. Westberg is only 3,200. It's still a very deep lineup, and now you just have another free bat in Cowser. So the O's look good, I think, as a stack. The Yankees are okay as a stack as well, but there's less good hitters. It's more difficult to point to exactly what you want from the Yankees. So far this season, Kramer's allowed a 281 expected ISO to lefties, 184 to righties. So not surprisingly, he's been a lot worse against lefties. 417 expected WOBA to them as well. Makes Rizzo look really good at 4K. Makes Jacob Bauers look good at 2,400. That's about the extent of left-handed bats in this lineup. Not to say you can't get to Torres, Stanton, Bader. Those guys are all fine. But Rizzo and Bauers stand out from the Yankees. And I think pretty much the whole Orioles lineup looks good.
All right. So we go from this game to another hitter-friendly spot. Maybe not in the sense that the park is just elite, but it's going to be 85 degrees at first pitch in this Cincinnati-Washington game. It's hot everywhere. It's going to be 90 where I'm at today in the, outside of Philadelphia, and probably going to be super hot around you as well.
I think it's supposed to be like 85, 90, which I assume means it's going to feel like it's 140.
Yeah, exactly. But Graham Ashcraft, Josiah Gray, 9.5 run total in this game. Neither of these guys pulling much ownership. And something that you and I have seen a lot of and talked a lot about lately is some of these massive slates, you're really not seeing flat ownership as far as pitching goes. It's real top heavy. But what happens there is that you get pretty flat stack ownership because there's so many pitchers we aren't playing and look to target. Pablo Lopez, Bobby Miller, Seth Lugo at that ownership right now. And then a few in the teens, everybody else outside of that, getting very little ownership. And, honestly, I think you can make a pretty decent argument for why a lot of these guys aren't getting that type of love. One question about Ashcraft, though, not like, so he's been bad in the traditional sense, but his ISO against lefties and righties isn't terrible. He's also pitching in a park that is not conducive to pitching. So what about against the bad Washington team today?
The price tag is okay at 6,100, but I still just don't think you're going to want to get there all that often. He's pulling 3.5% ownership. Like you said, it's hot, it's humid in DC. The ball's going to carry. The Nats
strikeouts either.
Yeah, they don't strike out a lot. Ashcraft doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. He does have good stuff. Maybe at some point in his career that translates. But so far this year, 17% strikeout percentage, 1.5 to 1.6 home runs per 9, 4.7 xFIP. It is a below average offense overall, but it's not a pitcher I would expect to really be going out of my way to get to.
What about Gray?
All-star Josiah Gray, but I don't know how he made the team over Mackenzie Gore, but he's not a very good strikeout pitcher anymore. You did see him make adjustments this year where he is doing a better job of limiting power, 1.1 home runs per 9, but the strikeout percentage has come down. He's only striking out 21% of hitters. He's walking 10.5%, 4.66 xFIP. And this Reds team is just better than they were earlier in the year. They've called up a bunch of good prospects. Obviously, De La Cruz is great, but Friedel's not bad. McLean's good. India can hit. Fraley's fine. Votto's back. Steer has power. I mean, this lineup, this is a team that we were kind of picking on earlier in the year. And now this lineup really 1 through 9 doesn't have bad hitters. So it just doesn't strike me as a game where I'm looking to get to the pitching.
All right. Do you want to get to bats then? Because Gray's been solid. I mean, from a run production or being a limiting run standpoint, he has certainly been good. Ashcraft hasn't. He is allowing 1.5 home runs per 9 on this 1.55 home runs per 9. Although it looks like based on his expected power allowed, that might come down. And as you mentioned, he does have decent stuff. Plus Washington, not exactly littered with talent throughout that lineup. Do you have any interest in either side of this from a stacking standpoint?
So Washington's actually coming in 4th in stack score because they're so inexpensive. Only a 4% chance of being the top stack, 5% aggregate ownership, but nearly an 11% chance of being the top value stack. So they actually look pretty good here. 4.5 to 4.6 implied run total. Lane Thomas is 5K. He's also very good. But other than that, there's nobody 4K or higher in the projected lineup. So you get a cheap second base option in Luis Garcia. Dom Smith, if you want to pay down at first base. Keibert Ruiz can hit for a catcher. He's only 3,300. It's a very cheap offense. So if you're trying to pay up for pitching, maybe get a good secondary stack or one-offs along with good pitching, then that's our team you can go to for that. And it's not like it's a bad matchup against Ashcraft. The Reds have the higher implied run total. They are also more expensive. So they're coming in more middle of the pack in terms of stack score. They have a 7% chance of being the top scoring stack, which is 4th highest on the slate, but only about a 1% chance of being the top value stack, 6% aggregate ownership. So both offenses look pretty good. It just sort of depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a value offense where you can put yourself in a position where it's like, well, if these guys happen to overperform, I'm in really good shape because I have good pitching and good hitting around them, then you're looking at the Nats. The Reds are more of like the team that you're paying for, and then you need to find value elsewhere because they are expensive. 6K to De La Cruz, 5,400 to McLean, 4,700 to Friedel, Fraley and Votto both north of 5K. The only hitter in the Reds projected lineup that is below $4,600 on DraftKings is Will Benson at 3K batting 9th. Whereas for the Nats, there's one hitter above $3,700. So just two totally different teams, but they're appealing for different reasons.
Let's talk about Atlanta and Cleveland. Soroka is coming off of, of the 3 starts that he's made, this is by far the best one. He did allow 3 earned and 2 home runs in 6 innings pitched. He's now allowed 5 home runs in his 3 starts, 5 home runs in 15 and a third innings or 2 third innings. Struck out 7 though, got the win. He wasn't bad, but you're going up against the Cleveland team that on the active roster against right-handed pitching, dead last in strikeout rate, or I should say best, 18% flat K rate against righties this season. So that's a pretty unappealing spot, even though he's pretty cheap there. And then on the other side of this one, what are your thoughts on Cal Quantrill going up against Atlanta? I mean, that just can't be a spot that you get enthusiastic about at all.
Oh, not at all. I do think Soroka is interesting. There's not really much ownership coming into pitchers in his price range, which tells me that you probably just aren't going to need that price range that much. But if you do, I'd rather get to him than Sandoval against San Diego. I'd rather get to him than Henry against the Mets. I'd rather get to him probably than Vasquez against Baltimore. Soroka threw 98 pitches last time out, so that's the big thing. That was his first start back from the minors. So his first start since June 4th. We know he's been hurt basically since 2019. He came back this year, made 2 starts against Oakland and Arizona. He sucked in both of them. He went to the minors. He pitched well in the minors. So that was a good sign where it was like, okay, at least, we don't know what he's going to be. He was good as a rookie. Then, had a bunch of injuries. We don't know what he is at this point, but at least he's able to get guys out at AAA. That's a good first step. And then he comes up, strikes out 7 guys in 6 innings against Miami, throws 98 pitches. So we don't have workload concerns. He's likely more talented than a $6,700 price tag. It's not a good strikeout matchup. Like you said, Guardians very tough to strike out. They are starting to hit a little bit better too. And the reason I mention that is they've been really bad overall this year. But when you look at the names in this lineup, you don't expect them to be a great offense, but you don't expect them to be terrible like they have been for a lot of the year. So it's not really surprising that you're seeing them kind of level out. So yeah, it's not like I'm looking at Soroka and saying like, wow, I don't understand why he's getting no ownership. I really think he's a great play. I want to get there. But of the like sub 7K guys, if you need to go to that range, I do think he makes some sense.
On the other side, we're not going to talk about Quantrill in the sense that we'd play him. Let's talk about Atlanta. Highest top stack probability on the slate, looking at our top stacks tool, 10.5%, 3% higher than any other team. Cal Quantrill has a 12% K rate on the season. He has a 6.5% swinging strike rate against righties, sub 10% against lefties. 218 x ISO against righties as well. There's just nothing redeeming from hey, can we play Cal Quantrill today? Outside of the fact that you look at this Atlanta team and you'd be not surprised even a little bit if they went out and put up a monster total. 6-run implied total today, Adam, in a game where the temperature, I think at first pitch, is going to be around 87 degrees.
Yeah, the only thing working in Quantrill's favor is this park isn't good for home runs, but it seems bad that you are facing a lineup that has Ronald Acuna, Austin Riley, Sean Murphy, Marcelo Ozuna from the right side, plus Orlando Arcia. And you have struck out 8% of righties this year with a 218 expected ISO. Doesn't seem to set up very well for you. And it's not like he's great against lefties either. So, that's not to say not to look to Albies and Olsen and Rosario and Harris. He has given up less power to lefties, 166 expected ISO instead of 218. His strikeout percentage against lefties is twice as high as against righties, but that means 16.5%. It's a brutal spot for Quantrill. It's a great spot for the Braves. They are first in top stack percentage at 10.5%. Stacked score puts them in the middle of the pack because they are so expensive. But if you can find a way to get to them, great. The only problem is that the cheapest guy in their projected lineup is Rosario at 4,200 on DraftKings. Everyone in the top 5 is at least $5,600. So they are tough to get to, especially on a slate where we don't have a lot of pitching that we want to pay down for. But if you can get there, great. It's a good spot. They are literally an all-star team. They have 8 guys on the NL All-Star team. 6 of them are hitters. So, I mean, it's obviously a great team to get to.
He has a 4% K minus BB rate this year.
Yeah, he is not very good. He is also somebody that I don't think has ever pitched poorly when I stack against him, but he is not very good.
It is one of those type of pitchers where he'll load the bases on walks and singles and stuff and then somehow get out of the jam or allow one run on an RBI
at the shortstop's face or something.
Yeah, it's just something. Yeah. But at the same time, you can't ignore a 6-run implied total with near 90-degree temperatures against a guy that doesn't miss bats.
No, not at all. The only reason that the Braves aren't getting more ownership and that, you wouldn't get to the Braves possibly is just the pricing.
Yeah, absolutely. Texas, Boston, John Gray, Brian Bayo. Bayo? 2 righties on the bump, 10-run total. Texas minus 110 on the road. All right, so I guess we can dive into this one a little bit, right? John Gray, though, no ownership, $8,900. Brian Bayo on the other side of this one, getting around 3% ownership at $8,500. Neither of these particularly favorable matchups. Also going to be 80-plus degrees in Boston today. Any pitching here, or do you want to talk bats?
It's tough to get to the pitching. They're both good. Bayo has been very impressive this year. Young pitcher. We saw him struggle a little bit last year with his control and then also just getting really unlucky on balls in play. This year, he's been better. He gets a ton of ground balls, has a 21 to 22% strikeout percentage, 3.84 xFIP, 57.2% ground ball percentage so far this year. He's a good pitcher, but you're going up against one of the best offenses in baseball. Texas active roster against right-handed pitching this year. Identical WRC plus to Atlanta at 120. 189 ISO is lower than Atlanta's 224, but it's still very, very good. And you're in Fenway Park. So Bayo's a pitcher that I often want to play a lot of. Tough to make that case here against Texas. And then the same thing for Gray. Started the year out slowly, has turned things around a bit recently, dealt with some blister issues. Those hopefully are behind him. But you're facing the Red Sox in Fenway, 5-run implied total, a lot of left-handed bats. Gray has typically not been as good at striking out lefties in his career. This year, he's actually got a 22% strikeout percentage to lefties, only 20.5% to righties, but 173 expected ISO allowed to lefties. It's just a really tough spot to want either pitcher against these respective offenses in this park.
Yeah, and I guess the question now becomes, what do we want to do with the bats on both of these? Because you just laid it out why it's tough to get there at pitching for either side. Boston right now has, you see, I didn't think Boston would have the highest aggregate ownership on this slate, but they in fact do. I guess some of that just being the fact that from a value standpoint, they're popping in the top stacks tool. But both them and Texas are getting a decent amount of ownership. Texas has the second highest top stack probability behind only Atlanta today.
Sorry, I was being wrong in chat. I didn't hear what you said.
Basically just talking about how Boston pulling one of the highest value scores as far as stacks go and the highest ownership score. And then on the other side, Texas not as high owned, but the second highest top stack probability behind the Braves.
Yeah, very high upside offense, or very high upside spot for both offenses. Boston second in stack score, 5% chance of being the top stack, but also a 10% chance of being the top value. Duran is very cheap at 2,800. Turner's cheap at 3,900. Tristan Casas is free at 2,300. The only guys there's nobody in their projected lineup that is even $5,000. You're getting a discount on Devers at 4,900, Yoshida at 4,800, and then everybody else is 4K or less. So very cheap team, very easy to get to. You're getting, they're projected to be the highest owned team for that reason, but they still look good, probably a little bit over-owned. Texas, more difficult to get to. It is a good ground ball pitcher in Bayo. Like I said, 1% chance of being the top value because they are expensive, but they are a very high upside offense as well. So if you can find the salary for them, great.
Let's keep moving here. We got Kansas City and Minnesota, Alec Marsh, Pablo Lopez. All right, so I guess Pablo Lopez is where we've got to start. Massive ownership today against this Kansas City Royals squad. 49.3% ownership, almost 30% top two probability. So some negative leverage, but that's going to happen on an 11-game slate when you're as popular as he is. On DraftKings, 10,100. It's not as much of like, is he a good play? But more so what I'd like to know from you is, do you see yourself getting over the field or around the field on Pablo Lopez at 50% on an 11-gamer?
I think it's warranted. You just have so many. You don't have a ton of good pitchers on this slate, and then a lot of them are just in really tough spots. So, probably going a bit over-owned in terms of ownership versus top two pitcher percentage, but still a good matchup, good pitcher. 10-1's not that much of an issue here. So I do like getting to Lopez. I wouldn't be surprised if I came in like 35-40%.
Pentomata was very popular yesterday at that cheap price point, and he dominated in this same matchup. Pablo Lopez a better pitcher than he is, but also very expensive. How about the other side of this one, Marsh, or do you want to talk Minnesota bats? Take it wherever you want.
Yeah, Minnesota bats are pretty interesting here against Marsh. Just another pitcher that isn't likely to be very good at this point in the major leagues. You do have strikeouts in the Twins lineup. If you wanted to, chase a 5K Marsh, pay for the Braves maybe and just hope he gets some strikeouts. But 4% ownership there, 4% chance of being a top two pitcher. I don't think you're going to be going there that often, but it's worth noting the strikeouts are there. But the Minnesota side looks pretty good. They're just still really cheap outside of Correa and Buxton, who clearly you're going to be willing to pay for. In terms of stack score, they are first. 5% chance of being the top stack, 7% aggregate ownership, but a 10.5% chance of being the top value as well. So it is interesting that they are getting less ownership in the aggregate than Boston against Gray. I think I would actually rather get to the Minnesota side.
Okay. Do you have any interest in Kansas City bats whatsoever, or do we just move on from this one?
This is always a tough question for me. I don't. I'm also sure I'll just play more than I want, but I don't really want to look to them against Lopez. If you are, it's because they're cheap. Witt and Perez are the only expensive guys in this lineup, and they're always going to be two of the highest upside guys at their respective positions. Lopez has been much better against righties this year, but he hasn't been bad against lefties. 33.5% K percentage to righties, 25% to lefties, 146 expected ISO to lefties, 142 to righties. If you were trying to just single somebody out, Nick Prado at 3,100 or Melendez at 2,800 would, I guess, be where I go outside of the obvious, Bobby Witt, but not a very appealing team at all.
How about this, man? Prize Picks just expanded into Indiana. They're now legal in Indiana. How about that? Not bad. If any of you are out there in Indiana, you got Prize Picks now. Or in any of the other states, primarily where sports betting isn't legal, Prize Picks probably is. And if you sign up using the link in the description and in chat, not only are you getting the standard par for the course 100% first match deposit bonus up to $100, which is solid in its own right. You put $100 in, now you get 200. Put 20 in, now you got 40. You're doubling up whatever you put in right away, and it's injected straight into your bankroll. Not only are you getting that, you're getting a free month of every single tool that we have on the site over at Stochastic. Stochastic Plus Platinum, it's $120 value. You're getting all of that for free when you sign up and deposit for the first time at Prize Picks. Got to use the link, otherwise we can't track you. But all those sports I talked about earlier in the show, whether it's, baseball, MMA right now, PGA, NASCAR, tennis, got a big, Wimbledon going on with tennis right now. So much other stuff, so many other contests and games. And if there's contests out there, whether it's DraftKings, FanDuel, doesn't matter. We've got content for them. But on Prize Picks, listen, all you're doing is building out cards with your favorite props, the over or the under. Josh has been killing it. You should be following Josh right now over on OddsShopper and on Twitter to make sure that you're tailing those picks, because he's on a bit of a run and you're just putting them into a card. You can do it 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Doesn't matter. You play 6-pick flex play, you're 25xing if you win. 10xing if you hit on 5. But unlike traditional sports books, pay attention to this. Very important. If you play a 5 lineup, right? 5 props, over, under, whatever you want to play. You got 5 of them in there. If you only hit 4, you're still 2xing. You still make money back going 3 of 5. Anywhere else, it's just, all right, thank you for playing. You get nothing in return unless you're playing round robins or something, but that's not the case. So if you haven't checked it out yet, you want to get all of our tools for free. You want to get a first match deposit bonus up to $100, 100% match. And you actually want to play on a site that is booming right now for very obvious and good reason. Link is in the description. Prize Picks, get you the free month, get you the deposit bonus. And we're in Indiana. They're in Indiana now too. So if you wanted to and you're like, damn, they don't have it in Indiana, now they do. And pretty much any other state where you can't legally sports bet, go scratch that itch over at Prize Picks. No better way to do it. All right, let's keep this one rolling here. We got 5 down, 6 to go. Toronto and the Chicago White Sox, Jose Barrios and Lance Lynn. Ownership going to these guys right now is 5% to Jose Barrios and Lance Lynn getting, 16% here. I mean, strictly hoping for the strikeout upside on Lance Lynn. What do you want to do with him at 16%?
Yeah, I mean, it's purely a price play on Lynn at 8,400. He does have good strikeout stuff, but really tough spot against Toronto. Not only are they a good offense, they don't strike out a lot. So, that's working against him. What does work in his favor is that Toronto is a right-handed heavy lineup. Most of their best hitters are right-handed. Lynn has struck righties out at a 30.1% clip this year, 144 expected ISO, 296 expected WOBA, compared to lefties who have struck out 23.5% of the time, but also have a 380 expected WOBA, so like 80 points higher than righties, a 259 expected ISO, so like 120 points higher than righties. But the Blue Jays, don't have a ton of left-handed power. Most of their good hitters are right-handed. So at this price, I understand why Lynn's getting some ownership, but it is still a scary spot. And from a large field tournament standpoint, there's not many guys. Bobby Miller is getting more ownership in this price range. Cobb is getting similar. But you do have pivots. It's not that I like Brian Bayo more than Lynn. It's not that I like Josiah Gray more or John Gray more, any of these guys, but they are close enough where if you have a specific tournament lineup where it's like, oh, well, I have, the really popular Red Sox or some other popular team, and I need to save ownership. The ownership gap is big enough you could make that play, but Lynn is going to project better than most of them just because of his strikeout stuff. So I get why the ownership's there. It's still a very scary spot. For Barrios on the other side, kind of surprised he's only getting 5.5% ownership. He is a little bit more expensive than the rest of those guys. He's not a great strikeout pitcher, but he's also not bad. 22.7% strikeout percentage, 4 flat xFIP this year. The White Sox have been below average offensively overall. Barrios, 177 expected ISO, 321 expected WOBA to righties, 202 expected ISO, 350 expected WOBA to lefties. The White Sox don't have much left-handed power. You're basically talking Yasmani Grandal. But, he has still not been great against righties. So I understand why Lynn's getting more ownership. I don't mind turning some of that into Barrios if you can find the salary.
It's crazy though when you look at Lance Lynn and see, basically strikeout or home run at this point.
Yeah, especially for lefties.
Yeah, dude, 22 home runs allowed, 2 home runs per 9 on the season. And I think you mentioned this, 259 X ISO against lefties, 309 actual ISO. 16 of his 22 home runs that he's allowed this year have come against left-handed bats. Really 3.3 home runs per 9 allowed to lefties this season.
Yeah, and by the way, this park, whatever they're calling it now, fourth highest home run park factor over the last 3 years for left to both sides of the plate. For lefties, 113 park factor for home runs, seventh highest. For righties, it is at 112, which is the fifth highest. Good hitters park. And when you look at Toronto's lineup, like, and this isn't to say not to play Springer, Bichette, Guerrero, Chapman, obviously, but $3K Brandon Belt and $3,300 Dalton Varsho is a really nice two-man value stack.
Yeah. It's just funny because you have Lance Lynn right now getting 16% ownership, 13% top two play probability in the top pitchers tool. But you also have Toronto with like the fifth highest top stack odds and one of the highest owned teams as well, behind only Boston. I do get it though. Like if Lance Lynn could still strike out 8 and give up 3 home runs.
Yeah, exactly. It's still a good hitter's park. It's still a really good offense. And it's not like Lynn is great. Belt is leading. The ownership is being distributed the way that it should be. Brandon Belt, 15%. Danny Jansen, $2,900 catcher, 12%. And Dalton Varsho, 11%. Everyone else is 7% or below. So as a full stack, they are pretty low owned. But again, it's not nearly as good a spot for Bichette, Guerrero, Springer as it is for Belt and Varsho.
Any thoughts on White Sox bats before we move on?
I wish they had more left-handed power. Barrios hasn't been great against righties, though, so I don't mind getting to some White Sox. Luis Roberts always going to be a good play, having a fantastic season. I'm a little surprised the White Sox are as low as they are in stack score. They're fifth from the bottom, 2.5% chance of being the top scoring stack, 2.5% chance of being the top value stack, 2% projected ownership, but they still have a 4.4 implied run total in a park that does play up power against a pitcher who isn't great at limiting it. So I guess I'm probably a little bit more interested than the field, but in the context of the slate, you do have a lot of weak pitching, a lot of good hitting conditions. So they're not really going to stand out.
All right. And no, unfortunately, Kevin, I don't know when Missouri is going to have prize picks. I think betting is going to be legal in Missouri, right?
I don't know what Missouri is.
It's a state.
It is not a state. But yeah, I'm not sure. I know that they are basically every state around them now has legal betting. So you would think that they get with it soon.
Yeah. Oh man. Yo, can you imagine the fact that the Chiefs just won another Super Bowl? And like, you'd have to cross the border, but Missouri, the amount of money you could have brought in just on one event alone.
Oh yeah.
Even not one event. You think about the entire NFL season. Because you know that those people are just going across the border.
Well, so I don't know for sure if Kansas has betting. I know Illinois does. So you have your two biggest cities. One of them borders Kansas and one of them borders Illinois. I know from St. Louis, you just drive across the river and you're in Illinois and can bet. And if it's legal in Kansas, it's the same thing there.
I think it is. Yeah. Yeah, and they were smart. September 1st, 2022, right before the NFL season started.
Yeah, exactly. Like
there's a lot of Chiefs fans in Kansas. Like this.
Right. It's such bad business from St. Louis, especially, like I was saying, it's not like St. Louis is in the middle of the state and you have to drive 3 hours to go place a bet. Like you literally just have to drive across the bridge.
Right. Yeah. Oh man. Is Prize Picks in? Well, you didn't know Missouri was a state, but is Prize Picks in Missouri?
Because Prize Picks didn't exist when I lived in Missouri, so I don't know.
I only ask because Prize Picks is usually available in most states that don't have sports betting. Like I can't do Prize Picks in PA, but I can bet.
Right? Yeah, I don't think I can do it in Maryland.
Oh, I don't think they have either. That sucks.
Yeah.
Huh.
I know. God, there was something when I lived there, or not long after I moved. I can't remember what it was, but it was like the most basic thing, and you still had to drive to Illinois to do it.
Yeah, that's stupid. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. People are going to do it anyway. Like you said, they're just going to find ways to do it. Why not collect?
Right.
Justin,
there's a full casino. Literally, like you can see it from the Missouri side of the Mississippi River, but it's in Illinois.
Right, exactly. Wouldn't you want some of that?
Right.
Justin Steele, Adrian Hauser, Chicago Cubs minus 150 today, 8.5 total in Milwaukee. By the way, 18 likes from 100. If you haven't done so yet, take a single second. Take a second, atone for your sins here on the Strategy Show this wonderful Wednesday morning and show us a little bit of love. Help us appease the YouTube overlords. That's just the way it goes, man. The algorithm, the thumbs up, the subscribing, the comments, even talking in chat goes a long way to help us boost this content. So if you like this free stuff and you think it helps you, entertains you, whatever it may be, simplest way to support us is hit that thumbs up and subscribe.
I think it was Draft when I lived in St. Louis that was like popular, and you couldn't do it in St. Louis, but you could do it literally on the other side of the river.
Draft. Oh yeah, like the original Underdog.
Yeah.
Kind of, right? I mean,
yeah, same founders. They sold it to FanDuel and then just launched the same thing again.
It was Jeremy, right? Yeah. That dude's always coming up with something new. It's crazy.
I mean, this time it wasn't even new. It was just like, oh, you're just gonna kill the thing I built. I'm just gonna rebuild it again.
I know. No, I met him at an FSGA, or at the time it was FSTA event, and he was the guy's mind is working 1,000,000 miles per second. It was impressive.
Yeah, I've never met him, but definitely a lot of respect there.
Justin Steele, Adrian Hauser. What do you want to do with the pitching in this matchup today? Cubs big favorites in Milwaukee.
Yeah, Steele's been great this year, and he looks like a good pitching option. 10-3 is perfectly reasonable. Good strikeout matchup against the Brewers. Steele's not a great strikeout pitcher, 22.3%, but 3.83 xFIP, not giving up any power, only walks 5.5% of hitters. Overall, he's been very good this year. Against right-handed hitters, 21% K percentage, sub 100 expected ISO, 270 expected WOBA. Lefty striking out 26% of the time, has given up a little bit more power or expected power with a 157 expected ISO. Limited sample though, and still only a 290 expected WOBA. He's been very good. We have him right now projected for 14.5% ownership, 13% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. This is where it's a little weird to me that Lopez is getting 49%. I think Lopez is a very good play. I don't think he's this much better than Justin Steele. He is a better strikeout pitcher though. So, better DFS pitcher, but Steele is a really good real life pitcher in a good strikeout matchup.
So just looking at ownership there, then, do you think you get to more Steele than the field at the current time?
I would like to. I don't know if I will. I haven't run anything, but I like the idea of it. I don't think that they're that different.
Any interest in Adrian Hauser?
Not really. Doesn't get strikeouts whatsoever. 4.6 implied run total for the Cubs. He's 6,500. So, sort of like I was saying with Soroka, if you need to pay down to that price range and you just want to hope that you get 6 or 7 innings of 2 strikeouts and no runs from Hauser, fine. But I'd rather go to Soroka, and ideally I just won't have to go to that price range.
Okay. What about Cubs bats today? Right now, 6% aggregate ownership in the top stacks tool, 5-run implied total. That's up there among some of the higher teams today. Although I will point out that, we're in July. It's very hot. In the top stacks tool, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 teams with a 5-run total or higher right now, and 15 at 4.6 or higher, Adam. That's insane. Even at this time in July, that just kind of illustrates how much underwhelming pitching is on this slate outside of a few names.
Yeah, 100%. And also just how good the hitting weather is pretty much everywhere in the country.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you think about it too. Toronto has a 5.1 run implied total. Lance Lynn's still getting 16%. There's still pitchers with opponents with run totals at 4.5 or higher, much higher in some instances, getting 15, 16, 20%.
Right. And that's a big reason why Lopez is getting such a big ownership gap between him and Steele. Not only is he the better strikeout pitcher, but KC does only have a 3.2 implied run total versus 3.9 for the Brewers. Obviously, 3.9 is not something you're overly concerned about, but it's still a really big, difference there.
Anything else you want to dive in on with this game as far as bats go?
I mean, it's a good park for power. Again, I'm not really looking to Milwaukee against Steele. Hauser does a pretty good job limiting it. Sub 100 expected ISO to righties. He has allowed a 200 actual ISO and 172 expected ISO to lefties, though. I think looking to Ian Happ at 3,900 is pretty interesting. Talkman's probably leading off sub 3K. Bellinger's only 4,500 against a guy that doesn't miss bats. So I do think the Cubs are somewhat interesting. In the top stacks tool, they're middle of the pack in stacked score. 5% chance of being the top scoring stack, 6% ownership, 3.5% chance of being the top value stack. So just a team where I'll probably be right around the field.
All right. You want to talk about the Angels and Padres?
Nope.
All right. Patrick Sandoval, Seth Lugo. Seth Lugo.
I wasn't even listening. I just assumed your question was, did I have anything else to say? And then I heard what you said after I said no.
All right. That's why I was like, well, all right. We got to do it anyway. All right.
No, man, I'm done.
Yeah. just close out of Zoom.
I just wanted to talk about Justin Steele. That's all I needed to do.
No, yeah. Nope, I'm good. Thank you for the offer, though. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning. Lugo, though, 22% K rate on the season. He is not going unowned. Third highest owned pitcher on DraftKings right now at 26%, 12% top two probability. Of course, if you guys are wondering what these numbers mean, ownership, obvious. Maybe you just signed up and you're looking at the top stack tool or the top pitcher tool for the first time. Top two probability is because you have to play two pitchers on DraftKings. So the likelihood that they're going to be one of the top two pitchers on the slate. On FanDuel, it'll just say top percentage because there's only one of those, so on and so forth. Leverage score, factoring in ownership and their likelihood that they're going to be the top pitcher or top two pitcher on the slate, all that stuff. If you ever have any questions, just hit me up, hit any of us up. My DMs on Twitter are open, but what do you make of Seth Lugo today? 26% ownership.
Decent enough option, only a 3.4 implied run total for the Angels. This is one of the few spots on the slate where you have a pitcher's park and it's not 85 degrees. It's supposed to be like 70 in San Diego, like every other day of the year. So it sets up pretty nicely. He threw 94 pitches last time out, I believe it was. Yeah, 94 pitches. 7,900 is a reasonable price tag. Overall this year, about a 22% strikeout percentage, 3.7 xFIP. No Mike Trout until August for the Angels, so that weakens the lineup a bit. Obviously, they still have power. Ohtani is fantastic. Moniak has power. Ward, Renfroe, but losing Trout is a big deal. And then getting this game in San Diego is nice as well. So the ownership makes sense. We have him 12% to be a top two pitcher, but also 10% to be a top two value. So no real problems there.
Okay. Any interest in Sandoval on the other side?
Not really. I mean, it is a good pitcher's park, so there's that, but not a good matchup against the Padres. Obviously, very dangerous offense. And we have seen Sandoval strikeout stuff drop this year.
Okay. Yeah, he's coming off a decent strikeout game. I think he faced the White Sox last time out and had 8 or 9 Ks. Yeah, 8 Ks against the White Sox. Coughed up 7 runs in that game as well. It was just one of those Jekyll and Hyde type performances.
Yeah. You have seen the strikeout stuff increase, and that is something I expected because throughout his whole career, he's been like a 21 to 25% K guy.
Yeah.
Over his last 3 starts, 8, 6, 3. That was in Colorado, so who cares? And 8. And prior to that, he hadn't struck out more than 6 guys all year, and he'd only reached 6 once. So I do think that you see more strikeouts from Sandoval going forward. This just isn't exactly the matchup where I want to find out.
Let's keep moving then. We'll talk about Tommy Malone, baby. And Alex Cobb, yes. When I saw that, I was like, I mean, it's got to be the same one, but let me make sure that this is that same left-handed Tommy Malone I remember talking about and stacking against back in 2013.
I was gonna say, I didn't realize I didn't realize he's been around since 2011, but it feels like he's been around forever. Like he was a Nats pitching prospect at the time. And
yeah. Oh yeah, dude, he's been around quite some time. And he's back today. Seattle plus 135 in San Francisco.
He was part of a big trade. I just don't remember to Oakland, if I remember right. I just don't remember who they got for him.
Yeah, I wouldn't remember that. My mind does not recall those types of things usually. But
that's like all I can recall.
8 run total.
AJ Cole. He was traded with AJ Cole, Derek Norris, and Brad Peacock for Gio Gonzalez.
Okay. All right. He's getting some ownership. He's minimum salary. He's getting 8.6% ownership. He's the 7th highest owned pitcher right now, which to put that in context, the 5th highest owned pitcher is 15%. He's at 8.5%. So it's not like he's, right there. But I mean, dude, I don't know. It's Tommy Malone, a lefty against San Francisco. Yeah, it's a good park and he's dirt cheap. Like, what type of expectations can we set today for Tommy Malone?
Low ones, but he's the thing is he's only 4K and he's a starter. He's been at AAA this year. He's made 11 starts. He's pitched 50 in the third innings. He's made one start for Seattle. He's not a good strikeout pitcher, but
what's his strikeout stuff look like at AAA?
21.7%, 6.5 FIP. Projects for like a 17 to 18% strikeout percentage in the majors. So it's not that he's good. It's just that he should be like $6,000 and he's $4,000. So
right.
Especially when you don't have, we've mentioned a lot. You have Soroka, you have Sandoval. Neither of them are super exciting. At like between 6 and 7K. When there's nothing that really stands out in that range, it just makes sense. If you are going to like the Braves, for example, to just go all the way down to Malone and be like, okay, I'll just take all the savings and hope that he just doesn't go negative, basically.
So you think around 9% makes sense? Yeah, 9% seems about right. Like this isn't one of these.
I don't have a problem with him in that range.
It's not like one of these 4K plays where you should be loading up on him either. It's not like some elite prospect that DraftKings messed up on that's striking out 35% of batters at AAA.
Right. Yeah. This isn't Grayson Rodriguez debut, Bryce Miller debut. I mean, this is
Andrew Abbott was another one that was super cheap.
Yeah. This is just one of those, like I say it all the time, when you get a fully stretched out starter at like 5K, they're just underpriced. And when they're 4K, even more so.
Right, because he could go like 6 innings, 1 run, and 4 strikeouts, and somehow get to win. Like an underwhelming statistical game, but limit runs and get lucky.
Right, and especially on a slate like this, where you do actually have very expensive offenses that you would like to get to, and you don't have a ton of good pay-up pitching, and B, you don't have a very good mid-range at all, like below 8K. So it sets up as the kind of slate where he is useful because he can get you the Braves and you don't have as much opportunity cost at pitching. It's not like you have, an $8,600 Blake Snell on this slate and then, like an 8K Dylan Cease or something, and you're just giving up a ton by going to Malone. He can make sense in specific lineups.
Hey, what about Alex Cobb today in a spot against the Seattle team that has an active roster with the second highest K rate versus right-handed pitching? He's a 22% strikeout rate on the season. So, not bad, not great, pretty much around league average, only a 9% swinging strike rate, but it is a favorable park, pretty low total in this game. And Seattle's implied total right now is sitting at 4. So Alex Cobb around 16% seems to make some sense.
Yeah, Cobb looks good. You feel better about the matchup than you do for Lynn. Lynn's got the better strikeout stuff, particularly against righties, but Cobb overall is the better pitcher in a better park. 3.34 xFIP for Cobb this year compared to 3.87 for Lynn. Only a 22% strikeout percentage compared to 27%. 0.65 home runs per 9 compared to 2.06. In a park that suppresses power, the Mariners' active roster has about a 25% strikeout percentage against right-handed pitching, 101 WRC plus. They do have some power. Julio Rodriguez is, of course, very, very good. But Raleigh, Suarez, Kelenic, Hernandez, France, these guys all can hit. It's not that it's a safe spot, but 3.5 implied run total for the Mariners against Cobb compared to the Blue Jays at 4.6 against Lynn. So pretty equal ownership there, very similar projections. It's just two totally different spots where you're getting a good enough but not great strikeout pitcher that's very good at limiting runs and power in a park that limits power in a good strikeout matchup, as opposed to a very good strikeout pitcher where everything else about it sucks.
Any other bats here? Any bats at all you want to talk about?
Not really. The Giants against Malone, I guess, is okay. The problem is just the Giants against left-handed pitching suck from a DFS standpoint because you're probably going to get Austin Slater starting. You're probably going to get at least one other righty being pinch hit for later in the game. So keep an eye on the starting lineup. But it does get tricky here. Guys like Wilmer Flores, JD Davis, Patrick Bailey, they're likely to just be in the lineup no matter what later in the game. But, Slater in particular is going to be a decent value projection, but probably not be hitting later in the game. There's a decent chance you see like Matos getting pinch hit for later in the game. So they're kind of tough when it comes to facing left-handed pitching.
Appreciate you guys. Well over 100 thumbs up today. So thank you. Knew we'd get there. No problem. 2 games to go. Before we do though, listen, if you're one of the people that's been sitting on the sidelines like, man, my process, I don't know if it's right or wrong or whatnot, but maybe I should be doing something different. Maybe I just want to try something new. And you're sitting on the fence being like, do I just pony up the $4.48 to check up the lineup generator for the entirety of the week? $4.48, less than $4.50 for an entire week to check it out, where you can set your stack types where you can lock players if you want. You can swap players. I would suggest not doing a ton of that because we're already filtering out all of the bad lineups, running thousands of simulated lineups and only giving you many thousands of them and only giving you the top projected ones where you can see the optimal projection. You can see how chalky or contrarian each lineup is. If you say, all right, I'm going to just set all stack types, or let me set 5 3s or 5 man stacks or 4 4s, you can do all of that, run them, and get whatever you want into these lineups. Find the ones you like, save them, upload them to CSV. It's optimized for mobile as well. Or the ones you don't like, you can just discard them until you find ones you like. Each time you do, you save it, you upload it to CSV, throw it right in if you're on your desktop or your laptop, whatever, or if you're on your phone, sitting on the can, firing one off after a long day of work. You don't have a ton of time. Maybe you're not playing with a huge bankroll. Doesn't matter. You could be playing a couple dollars a week, and this is still going to make sense at that price. As an example, I had a tweet come into me yesterday that I was very pleased to see this. It was Zachary Williamson said, real talk, I'm not a big money bettor, but the MLB lineup generator has already paid for itself within the 5 days of making lineups with it. So much so that I'm going to keep the subscription. I don't know baseball well or DFS MLB techniques, but I suppose I don't need to with the lineup generator. That is the goal. Like, you can inject some of your own ideas and stuff into this, or you just don't know the sport all that well, but you want to still be able to compete and still find any edge that you can. This is for $4.48 for the first week. Same thing with Derby status. Dude won the mini max, $2,500, and took second place in the moonshot for another $1,000, $3,500 with the use of the lineup generator. Shit, you could win $40 in your first week, and you're still going, well, it massively outpaid or paid for itself already, and maybe I'll stick with it for another week or two and see if the magic keeps happening. And if not, you're down $4.48. So link to the lineup generator in the description or in the chat. Mike can throw it in there as well. And like I said, you ever have questions about this, hit me up on Twitter, hit us up, and we're happy to help you out. But I always love seeing people have success with these tools, especially, when it's like, oh, I don't have the money to pay $180 a month for the MLB Sims tool. Is there something out there for me? This is your answer for sure. MLB lineup generator. Been doing quite well for MLB this year. All right, let's talk about New York Mets and Arizona, and then we'll close it out with Pittsburgh and the Dodgers, Adam. The Mets minus 110 here in Arizona. Kodai Senga against Tommy Henry. Do you have any interest in either of these guys today? If so, who is your target on either side of this game?
Neither one's particularly appealing. Senga is only pulling 4% ownership. He's not, more than a 10-1 dog compared to Pablo Lopez. So he's one of those guys where if you have a popular lineup and you're playing a large field, top heavy tournament and you want to throw Senga in, that's fine, but doesn't project as well as Lopez or Steele. Those guys deserve more ownership. Tough matchup against Arizona, but he has a good strikeout pitcher, so there is upside there. Henry's more difficult to make a case for. He's up to $7,000, only striking out 17% of guys this year, 5.22 xFIP, facing a Mets team that is pretty difficult to strike out as well against left-handed pitching since the start of last year. 19.4% K percentage on the active roster for New York, 156 ISO, 113 WRC plus. So neither one's a priority. I think it's easier to make a tournament case for Senga, but chances are just won't have much of either.
Jeff, I just want to answer this real quick. Jeffrey asks, is the lineup generator better than Fantasy Cruncher? Fantasy Cruncher is a lot more advanced than what you can do with it. It's just a lot more expensive. Like, if you're going to use Fantasy Cruncher, you're like, when I mentioned earlier that it's 50% off all of our tools for the month, right? Like for every sport or one sport, like just say you wanted baseball for a month, it's 50% off. Link down there too. Make sure to take advantage of it. Don't spend the extra 50%. Like, Adam, if you're going to use Fantasy Cruncher, you're going to want the tools as well. So that's the difference here. Like, one of them is giving you the lineups that you can choose from. The other one is there's a lot more that goes into it, a lot more time consuming. And also you have to know a lot more when you're working with the tools.
Yeah, exactly. They're just different. Lineup generator, you're basically just cutting out all of the work that you have to do if you're using Fantasy Cruncher and going through a whole process to build your lineups. You get more options with Fantasy Cruncher. You can do a lot more. But yeah, like you said, it's different. It really depends on what you're looking for.
It's a preference thing. It's a price point thing for sure.
Yeah, it's a price point thing. It's a where are you in your DFS game thing. You can lineup generator for a cheap price tag will give you quality lineups without you having to know or do much of anything.
Right. I think Josh put it yesterday. He's like, it's going to give you better lineups than you're making.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, because there is so much customability. I don't know if that's a word, but
yeah, customization, I think, would be the word.
Yeah, but like your ability to customize is
maybe you're right. Customability, sure. Let's go.
I don't know. If not, it is now. You have a lot more of that, but that also means if you're inexperienced, there's a lot more room for you to make mistakes, and it is more time consuming also.
For sure. Where are we at? Bats for this game?
Can you tell me the game?
New York Mets, Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, kind of interested. 4.7 to 4.8 implied run totals for both teams. Mets are third in stack score, 6% chance of being the top stack, 8% ownership. Not overly expensive either. Pretty good matchup against Henry. Tommy Pham's been hitting really well this year, or recently at least. $3,200 price tag, hasn't adjusted, so he looks like a good value. Lindor, Alonso, Marte, Alvarez is always a high upside catcher option. So more interested in the Mets than the Diamondbacks. That's not to say, don't play Corbin Carroll or Ketel Marte, but more interested in the Mets side. Henry's just not as good a pitcher as Senga.
Let's wrap this one up. And yes, we do have a very popular pitcher on this one. Pittsburgh on the road against the Dodgers, plus 210 in a 9-run total game. Most of those runs are being attributed to the Dodgers right now. Osvaldo Bido and Bobby Miller. Miller, very popular today, 28.5%. We have him in the top pitchers tool as the second highest owned pitcher on the slate, Adam, against this Pittsburgh team tonight.
Yeah, and he probably should be. Not great strikeout stuff, but not bad either. 21.7% K percentage so far this year for Miller. Not a great strikeout matchup against the Pirates, but it's not like they never strike out. Active roster has a 22.2% K percentage against righties this year. Only a 98 WRC plus. Ke'Bryan Hayes still out, so that lineup's a little bit weaker than usual as well. And yeah, it's just, it's a slate where you have ownership going to Lance Lynn against the Blue Jays at the same price point. So it's going to look pretty good when you get Miller here against a team with a 3.4 implied run total. Good enough strikeout pitcher. He, in 4 starts at AAA this year, struck out 19.7%, 21.7% so far in the majors. Like I said, projects for around a 21 to 22% strikeout percentage going forward, 4.1 to 4.3 FIP, kind of depending where you look. So just projects to be a solid pitcher. He's priced appropriately, and just has a better matchup than other guys priced around him.
Any interest in Bido?
No.
Why not, dude? They're only plus 210 on the road.
Yeah, 5.6 implied run total for the Dodgers. Yeah, we've talked about Bido a lot, where I think he's probably a little bit better than projection systems give him credit for. He seems to have made some improvements over the last couple of years in the minors. I still don't think he's likely to be a good pitcher, and I certainly don't like his chances against the Dodgers.
What are his power numbers this year allowed
for Bido?
Yeah, I mean, oh wow, whoa,
yeah, none.
Whoa, I knew it was low. I didn't know it was less than a half a home run per 9.
119 expected ISO to lefties, 0.71 to righties.
Damn, dude. But again, what's his ground ball rate? It's got to be.
He's also thrown less than 200 pitches to both to either side of the plate.
Guess what his ground ball rate is? I'll tell you, because you're never going to guess this. 37%.
That's surprising.
I don't know. The gifts of PNC Park, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, that too. So, yeah, I mean, at AAA this year, 10.2% home run per fly ball percentage. At AAA last year, 14.3%. At AAA in 2021, only 2 starts, so I'll ignore that. But AA in 2021, 10.3%. So far in the majors, 4.8.
Yeah, that's unsustainably, because home run per fly ball rate isn't as much about like, is that good or bad? It's more, is it sustainable or not?
Right. You're going to see fluctuations based on quality of contact. And that is one of the things where stats have improved even since, we started talking about DFS. It used to just be like you assume a 10%, give or take, home run per fly ball percentage for every pitcher. And if it's higher, then they're getting unlucky. Now with StatCast data and all of that, you can say like, no, this guy just gives up really hard hit fly balls. So he's going to be higher or lower if he's not giving up. But nobody is coming in at 4 to 5%. I don't care what you're doing.
That's what I mean. Like the outliers, like a 30% or a 4%, that no matter how much they're giving up or not giving up, it's going to find some type of balance there.
Right. Exactly.
And this is for sure. So then what do you do with Dodgers bats to round this one out?
I think you played them.
Okay.
They are middle of the pack in stack score because they're relatively expensive. 1% chance of being the top stack, or of being the top value stack rather. 7% chance of being the top scoring stack. So only behind Atlanta and Texas, very slightly ahead of Cincy. Then you see a drop off to like Baltimore, the Mets, the Blue Jays. But all of those teams at the top are very expensive. And then that next tier is more affordable. So you're seeing a little bit more ownership going to that next tier. But the Dodgers certainly look good against Beto. 5.6 implied run total, like we mentioned. Tons of good hitters in this lineup. The other thing about the Dodgers that is nice, though, is, their best hitters, Betts, Freeman, Smith, Muncy, JD, they're all expensive. But Peralta, 3,300, Hayward, 2,700, Outman, 3,800. You can use those guys, one or two of those guys to balance out your stack if you need to, and still get exposure to a very, very high upside team.
Was it Josh that said that? Hold on a second. Josh Gillum said, I thought Senga pitched yesterday, had to recheck it with Scherzer. Dude, so did I. I swear.
They changed pitchers 3 hours before the game started.
Okay. I was going to say, I had like a Mandela effect moment or something like that. It was very odd. Yeah. Because that wasn't on that was on like that
was on the 1 p.m. slate. It was on the early slate.
Was it?
Yeah, but it was a 4 p.m. game. So when you did the show, you talked about Senga.
Okay, that's what it was then. Gotcha. Yeah, I did. I had this weird. I was like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. And I'm thinking maybe it was just someone else that I associate with him, but no. All right.
Yeah, and it sucked because, so like I had like 15-ish% Senga. So I swapped like most of that to Scherzer, but then I was like, wait, Scherzer's going to be really low owned because this came out after the slate started. So then I start swapping like Nola to him as well when I can. Nola ends up being like 22% owned, and Scherzer ends up being like 20, and just ended up being a huge mistake.
You know what the Mandela effect is, right?
Yeah, that Sinbad movie.
I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
There's a movie that like anybody that was a kid or grew up in the 90s definitely watched, where Sinbad is like a genie, but it doesn't.
And they thought it was somebody else and not Sinbad. That one.
The movie just doesn't exist. Like there's a Shaq movie that came out around the same time.
Oh yes, I know it. Yeah. I know exactly. Actually, I'm picturing Sinbad as a genie right now.
Right, and the movie is called Shazam, except that movie never existed.
Who is
there? Shaq's movie is called Kazam and is real.
And Shazam is not a real movie.
Shazam is not a real movie. Sinbad did not play a genie in it, and everybody remembers it.
That's a wild one.
Yeah.
Or another one is like the spelling of Chick-fil-A.
Right. It's CHIK, right?
No, it's CHICK.
Really?
Yeah. But in your mind, you're probably seeing it as CHIK.
It had to have at some point been CHIK.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's CHIK.
I know you're right, because now I'm
you're saying maybe at one point. I don't think it ever was. I think that's one where it just messes with your head. Yeah. Are you looking up to see if it was one spell?
No. I know we've had this conversation before, so I'm remembering it now.
The Kazam one is crazy.
Yeah, I don't remember like why it is that everybody remembers that, but like 100% I can picture him, and I swear it's a real movie.
And it's funny because the whole like Mandela effect thing was that people had vivid memories of him dying.
Oh, is that where it comes from? I didn't know where it came from.
Yeah, like they had Nelson Mandela. That's right. The Mandela effect.
Oh, yeah. I know that. I didn't
put two and two together.
I didn't know what the backstory was.
And then he died like 30 years later.
Right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I didn't know that.
Super odd how that works out, man. All right. Anything else for this game? We take a quick look at the Sims before we get out of here.
No, I think we can look at the Sims.
All right, let's do it. Mike, we got that pulled up? Let's do it. MLB Sims tool, baby. We look at this pre-contest sim every single day before we go on the strategy show. Sometimes it might be weird just because early ownership and stuff, and certain pitchers maybe not being listed, but I think for this one we're probably pretty good. Adam, I'll throw it to you. Where do you want to start this one out? Should we go to lineup, stack ROI, Player ROI.
Just take the top 150 lineups and look at exposures.
All right, Mike, go to quick favorite.
Nope. Quick favorite on the right.
Quick favorite.
Top 150. And then exposures.
There you go. Mike, first time Mike's done this on the show. Doing fine though, but just so we're all
What the
first
hell?
time Mike's done this one on the show. So we're good though. We're getting there.
The crunch wasn't right.
Oh, do we not have it set for to match the ownership?
No, I mean 100% Lopez, 100% Duran.
Okay. All right. Mike, we'll scrap this and next time we'll get you squared away. I'm tempted to blame Jordan Klein, who showed you how to do this.
Yeah,
Not sure.
That works for me.
Okay, so I'll blame you. But we'll say there's a way to do this. You don't just run crunches. We'll figure it out. No big deal. Anyway, we'll do this tomorrow on the MLB Strategy Show. Get it figured out. Appreciate you guys watching as always. Follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS, me at Loughy_D. Thanks to Mike for producing. Remember, Prize Picks, free month of everything we've got, plus the deposit bonus in the description. 50% off all our tools, 50% off the lineup generator, whatever it is you want. Link in the description and in chat. We'll see you back here tomorrow. But don't forget, Live Before Lock, Deeper Dive, all that good stuff coming up tonight for this main slate on DraftKings, FanDuel, wherever it is you play. And we'll catch you back here for the next one. Peace.